Hi everybody, I'm Andrew for tutorial.tut, and this is the second tutorial where we will continue with the modeling of the speakers and the screens. I will use my own reference because it's easier to work. But before we start, let's select again these elements and go to isolation mode. Now here we have to put the screen, but we don't have enough space, so let's select again this construction and reduce the second radius to something like this, and let's also reduce the height a little bit, and from the latest modifier let's change the radius to 18, like this. Now we have to select these groups and scale them like this. Now let's open this group and move these spotlights a little bit. Now let's close it and rotate a little bit this here. Now let's change the pilot point to a center, and using local let's move it like this. Now let's again change this to a center here. And let's change the parameters like this. Let's rotate it again. And move it down. Now we have to do the same with the other elements, so I will pause the video, and when I'm ready I will continue. Now we are ready and we can continue with the modeling, but before that let's explain why I created these elements, because I forgot to do it in the first tutorial. I'm sorry about that. So they will be used for audio waveform in After Effects, and it's important to have them. So let's continue now. Let's create a box and convert it to SO poly. Now holding Alt and X we can see through our element, so let's select these edges and match them with this line here. Do the same here. Now let's select these two edges and connect one loop and move it like this. Now let's apply chamfer. And let's also move these vertices like this. Now let's match them. We can scale them. Now let's select these two edges and apply chamfer with 8 edge segments and to our amount like this. Now we can move them a little bit like this. Now let's apply chamfer also to these edges with higher amount like this. Now let's apply inset to this polygon. And let's turn on the snapster and create this straight line here. Let's just select these vertices and move them down a little bit like this. Now let's delete it and do the same with this polygon here. Now let's connect one loop to this point and one more here. Now let's do the same here. Now we can select these edges and connect two loops like this, and select this ring and connect one loop. Now let's move these vertices like this and connect them. Now let's select these polygons and apply inset. Like this. Let's do the same here. Now we have to extrude them. And let's apply inset again. Now let's go to top view and move this border a little bit. Now let's apply symmetry and move the mirror like this. Now let's convert it to editable poly and hit bridge to these borders. Now let's connect two loops like this and make them planar. Let's move this a little bit, and now let's select this loop and apply chamfer. Like this. Now we have to connect two loops here. Matching with this here. Seven is good. And now let's select these polygons and delete them. Now let's hit bridge to these edges. And connect one loop. Now let's hit cap to this holes and connect the vertices. Now let's apply turbo smooth to see our results, and let's connect supporting edges. Like this. Let's also connect two loops here. Let's connect more loops close to this edge. Now let's see what we have. Let's also select this ring and connect one loop close to this edge. Let's do the same here. Now it's better. Let's do the same with this part. Now let's select these edges and connect two loops like this, and more loops here. Let's also select these edges and connect one loop. Like this. Now everything is fine. Let's do the same here. But here we can see that we have connected these loops wrong, so let's select again these edges and connect new loop. Now everything is fine and we can continue. Let's create another box. And move these edges like this. Now we have to apply chamfer to these edges. With 8 edge segments. Now let's select these polygons and apply inset. Like this. Or let's undo this and apply inset with our amount like this, and now we can scale this and move it down. Now let's select these edges and match them with this line. Now let's hit bridge and select these warps and apply chamfer with 2 edge segments. Like this. Now we have to connect warps close to the edges, like this. And apply turbo smooth. Now let's change the pilot point to a center and align this object. Like this. Now let's go to the edge mode and let's select this warp and create shape from selection. Now let's scale it a little bit. And move these vertices like this. Now let's delete these vertices. And from rendering menu, let's check enable in viewport and increase the thickness. Like this. Let's also move these vertices a little bit. And now let's convert it to vegetable poly and apply turbo smooth. Let's move it like this, and using shift and drag let's make a copy. Now let's go to isolation modes and delete these two modes. Let's also connect one loop to a center here and delete this half of the element. Now let's apply symmetry and convert it to editable poly. Let's remove this loop and again apply turbo smooth like this. Now let's create another box and match these edges. Like this. Now let's move the top polygon like this and change the palette point to the center and align it to this element like this. Now here we have finished this screen, so we can continue with the speakers. Let's create a box. And match these lines. Now let's move the back polygon a little bit and connect 3 loops and scale them. Now we have to scale only the loop in the middle like this. Or we can scale it a little bit more. Now let's connect two loops and let's merge them. connect one loop and move it to this point, and one here. Now we have to connect 3 loops like this and do the same here. Now let's connect 3 more loops like this and select these polygons. But before that, let's connect loops close to the edges. Like this. Now let's apply inset 2 times like this. Let's do the same here. Now we have to select this loops, and from this menu here let's click on loop tools and then circle. Let's also hit relax a few times and delete these polygons. Now let's scale this border and move it a little bit. Like this. Let's do the same with these borders here. Now let's create a cylinder. Now let's reduce the height segments to 1 and change the size to 64. Let's move it like this and convert it to a poly. Now let's select this polygon here and apply inset, and then hit apply. Now let's apply it again and select this loop of polygons and extrude it with negative value like this. Let's do the same with this polygon. let's move this forwards and delete it. Let's also select these swoops and apply chamfer. Let's apply chamfer also to this swoop. Now let's move the element like this and apply smooth. Now using shift and drag, let's make a copy. Like this. And now let's create another cylinder. Let's move it like this and leave the sides to 64. Now let's apply inset and then extrude with negative value like this. Let's also delete this polygon. And apply chamfer to this whoops. Let's also select this whoop, but we can't select it like this, so let's select this polygon and holding Ctrl let's click on edge modes, so we have selected this whoop and we can apply chamfer. Like this. Let's move these polygons like this and apply smooth. Now we have to create another cylinder. And let's change the size to 19.6 is good. Now let's move it like this. And convert it to aerosol poly. Now let's select this polygon and delete it. let's apply inset like this, and then extrude with negative value, and inset again. Now let's apply chamfer to this loop, and also here with lower amount. Now let's select these polygons and extrude them. Let's leave this to group, and let's select these vertices and turn on the snap toggle. And we have to match them with these lines. Now let's change this to local and scale this a little bit. Now let's do the same here. Now I have done the same with all sides. Now let's select this polygon and delete it. Let's also create a torus. Like this. And align it to this element. Now let's change the size to 96. Or actually we have to change the segments to 96. And let's increase the size to 22 is good. Let's convert this to editor poly and delete these polygons. So this is everything for this tutorial. In the next one we will finish the speakers and we will place them in the scene. So I hope you like this tutorial and I will see you next time.